welcome back to Football Frenzy. I'm Zoe Alter here with Alex Watts, back for another episode. Alex, let's get started right away. Probably my favorite news of the season. Tua is the new starter in Miami. What do you think of it?
I'm really happy for Tua, but a little bit of disappointed for Ryan Fitzpatrick because, he was on a roll. I think they're on a 2-game winning streak. He really seemed like he's really starting to gel with his guys, and then they just bench him. I saw something earlier about that he's super heartbroken. He's like, oh, this was going to be my team. We were already just getting, we were gelling, and he's upset, but, I got to give it to Tua. He's been through so much. I think he deserves it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been high off Tua every time I see him play. I love him, and I do feel for Fitzpatrick. But the thing is, he's had so many chances. Like, everywhere he goes, he puts on his Fitz magic and whatever. But in a couple weeks, he'd be back to throwing his interceptions, and he wouldn't be the same player, or he'd get hurt or something. So, as happy as I was to see him succeed there, I think overall, Miami went for Tua. That was their quarterback. That was who they looked for the whole time. And I think that if you spend a draft pick on him, I understand they didn't start him right away. You don't throw him into that situation, but he's learned a little bit from playing behind Fitzpatrick, and I think it's time that he gets his chance to shine, especially when the rest of your team is working together. I think you got to send Tua in there because he's your future, not Fitzpatrick,
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with you 100%. And I think that Tua will really come into his own. Maybe not this season, he still has to get out those rookie kinks, but
yeah.
I think that next season he'll really become a solid starter. Maybe he'll become a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the Dolphins are, going to be contenders just because they're the Dolphins. But I do think Tua can make an improvement there. I really am excited to see him run because that's something Fitzpatrick cannot offer.
I am too.
Like, Tua has the arm, but his legs are what makes him special. And I'm really excited to see that because I think you're going to see something that's Patrick Mahomes or Lamar-esque a little bit about him. And he might not have the team around him to be as good as they have and have as much success as they've had or will have in the next couple of years. But I think he can still put up numbers like that. So I'm just excited overall to see him play. That'll probably be my game to watch this week when I turn on the TV to watch football. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, he really – I think the Dolphins do have a bye this week. But, we'll see him, I think, next week.
Then the week after, that's fine. The byes are all throwing me off because everyone's probably not moving around because of Corona. So I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, but, I think he really does remind me of a little, not so as much talented Patrick Mahomes. He can get it done on his legs if he needs to, but he can really sling the ball. So, yeah.
And the thing is, Tua's played under that spotlight just because he did play at Alabama and he had all that spotlight on him. Patrick Mahomes didn't have that on him in high school. It was different. In college. He didn't. Patrick Mahomes came into the league a lot more underrated and he broke onto the scene. Whereas Tua knows he's popular. He's had time to deal with that. And he's still humble after all this. So I think that's also what makes him really special is that from his upbringing in Hawaii and everything about that, I think as a person as well, I'm just really, obviously as a football player, but as a person through the injuries, through the way he was brought up, I'm just really excited to see him hopefully succeed.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, let's move on to a player who I admire their character a little less. LeVeon Bell signed with the Chiefs. We were just talking about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. This is a scary one, Alex. I gotta say. I know LeVeon hasn't been so great, but he is still LeVeon Bell.
Yeah, I think it's just a crazy situation overall because, he's cut me from the Jets and all this money that I made, and he held out against the Steelers for a whole entire year just to get a giant paycheck, and then he demands a release. I think that sounds a little bit Antonio Brown-esque, I think maybe hopefully he doesn't become like Antonio Brown because then that would just end up ruining his career. But, obviously the Steelers have had a past with divas, and clearly now another one gets cut for the second time and gets signed. So, I don't know where this is going to go. It's a good move, but it will bring Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his production down for all you fantasy freaks.
That was my exact next question to you. You read my mind. I was going to say, what do you do if you have Clyde and if you have LeVeon? What's your situation with the running backs?
I don't know. I think it might become a little bit like the Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette situation
Mhm.
with the Buccaneers because, they're really Ronald Jones is still their starting running back, and I think they're just gonna have to wait for him to break in with the Buccaneers. Talking about Leonard Fournette, so I think that's what might happen because he has to learn a whole entire new system as a running back, and that's pretty difficult,
That's true.
especially with
I also
just
think
like
he's
a
gonna take,
week.
yeah, I think he's gonna take more of a leadership role as well. Just I don't know if he has it in him to take that role, to kind of what what a Frank Gore does when he joins a team is he mentors those younger running backs while playing a little bit, but mostly he's there to pick up a couple stats and he's there to teach the next generation of running backs. And at least that's what I see when he joins a new team. And I wish that Le'Veon was like that, but I don't think he's that player. And I think what I want to see from this move is Le'Veon's old. He doesn't want to get hurt. He's got his money. The Jets lost a lot of money, but he still got a ridiculous amount of money with the Jets. We talked about that last week. And I just think going into with the Chiefs, he knows he potentially has a Super Bowl like in his hands right now. So you're going to like I'm not going to jinx it, but you're definitely in the running for a Super Bowl. You're one of the top contenders for a Super Bowl. And you're training this kid who's been insane in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think the ability to play with him and to teach him what so he can be better in the future, I think is really important. And that's what I want to see from Le'Veon, but I don't think that's what we're going to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
I agree with that. But can I just have another moment to crap on the Jets? I've been thinking about this long and hard all week, and the one thing that bothers me the most about the Jets is that they ruin good AFC North players. They've ruined Le'Veon Bell. They've ruined C.J. Mosley. They're
here
gonna
comes,
ruin Joe
here comes
Flacco.
the Ravens. Here comes the Ravens.
They've ruined basically everybody. They've ruined Patrick Owasso, who was a good linebacker. Now he's hurt. They've ruined everybody. And they're probably gonna end up ruining Frank Gore.
Oh, they
They're gonna
will.
ruin every single good player that comes to their team.
Yep.
That's what they're gonna do.
And it's not even that they ruined Le'Veon. Le'Veon ruined himself. We talked about that last week, so we can move on from him. But I definitely think the dynamic in Kansas City is going to be really interesting. Personally, I like Clyde a lot. Also, I'm a sucker for personalities, and I think he's just like a lovable guy, whereas Le'Veon I could really care less about. So, we'll see how that goes. But I am excited to see the two of them running together, and it makes the Chiefs a little bit scarier. Even they were already very scary, but this makes them a level up of scariness, and that's worrisome.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But you talked a little bit about the Ravens because when do we not? But for recaps, let's go into this Ravens-Eagles game. I gotta say, your Ravens didn't look too good, Alex.
Well, in the first half they looked great, and then
And
in the
what
third
happened?
quarter, just bad penalties. You know what it was? It was the penalties. I think the Ravens had 11 penalties with like over 170 yards of penalties given up, especially in the offensive line. God, it was atrocious. It was just awful. I think we had subbed out one of our offensive linemen because I forgot what happened to him. Oh, he got hurt again. So
Okay.
he got re-injured, and then
So
we brought
one
in
lineman
somebody.
makes you
Yeah.
almost lose to the Eagles, the
Yes.
Philadelphia Eagles, and Carson Wentz. One line.
Yes. And we brought in two unprepared rookies, basically rookies, to fill in the spot. And it was just not good. It was like 180 yards of penalties. And then the one that got me the most was the one against Marcus Peters, where there was clear contact on both sides. The refs, the guy, I was listening to it, the guy in the skybox, who is a former NFL referee and one of the chief officiating people, he said that it shouldn't have been pass interference. I think it was the refs screwing the Ravens over, like always.
So, in conclusion, the Ravens almost got beat by the Eagles and only won by 2 points because one offensive lineman got hurt and the refs sucked.
Yes, that's exactly
Got
it.
it. I understand. It wasn't Lamar only throwing one touchdown and only rushing for one touchdown. It
No, he
wasn't
threw for two
not even
touchdowns.
hitting 200 yards. It was
He
just.
threw for two. He threw for two touchdowns.
I thought he went through for one.
Nope, he threw for two.
Fine. Even 2 touchdowns. That's not Lamar-esque.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think he's just not clicking with the offense, especially since the Ravens are going more pass heavy.
Oh, look, we're
Because
adding another factor to the list. The offense
yeah,
isn't working.
yeah. I mean, he said it himself. It's not working. He wants to take go in a new direction.
What do the Ravens have to do to rebound from this and get back on track?
Stop being so worried about their 3 running back rotation. That's what happened. I'm telling you, 3 running back
Lamar ran
rotations
more
don't
than
work.
anyone. He's the number 1 running back. Who cares about the guys behind him? He ran for over 100 yards.
I know exactly, which isn't good. Your quarterback shouldn't be running over 100 yards if you have 3 very good and very capable running backs. I mean, Mark Ingram did get hurt,
Just pick a running back and stick with them. It's not that hard.
but they don't know how to do that. That's the thing. That's the thing. They don't know how to do that because they believe, give it to the hot hand. What if nobody has the hot hand? Which it hasn't been all season. So I think it's just lack of offense. And the only thing that's really, really helping the Ravens right now is their outstanding defense.
Outstanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good defense.
They do have
Calais Campbell had 3 sacks.
The Ravens did have 6 sacks in this game. That was very impressive.
Yeah, I think the Ravens have had like 15, 16 sacks in the past 3 weeks, which is really good.
Yeah.
Because
So their D line has always been scary. Will always be scary. Even though secondary was a little banged up, they've still been really good. The defense isn't the issue, I guess. It's more of the offense. But the fact that you have Lamar and you have all these weapons and you just can't put them together is a little worrisome, especially because you clicked last year and now you go into this year and you just can't click, you know?
Yeah, I get that. I think it's just the Ravens needing to really bring in their rookies. Like you saw remember that Devin Duvernay, like 93-yard kickoff return touchdown. And then James Prochet has been really good. So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of needing to bring in young people like Devin Duvernay and James Prochet into the rotation.
Got you. All right. Well, that's the Ravens for you. We'll see. They're on a bye this week, but next week, we'll be back. We'll debate that a little bit more. We might have a special guest coming in to talk about that with us.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right. Let's go to Texans-Titans. This is one that we had previewed a little bit, but still turned out to be a really interesting game just because, the Texans haven't been so hot this year. They were 1-4 going into this game, whereas the Titans were undefeated, and the Titans did squeak out with the win. But it was a very close game, and it was a well-played game that went to OT.
It's because Deshaun Watson is rid of Bill O'Brien. That's why. That's why he's been playing well.
Bill O'Brien was the curse.
Yeah, he was. They went to overtime with an undefeated team. I would have not expected that. I expected a slamming, but, Bill O'Brien's gone, and now they're much happier. So, I'm not complaining. Maybe they'll end up going 11-5 and making the playoffs.
We'll see about that one, but he did spread around the ball very well. I was impressed with that. He usually, he was used to just sticking to one guy in Hopkins, and he's been spreading around the ball. 4 touchdowns to all different receivers. He threw for 335 yards. His completion percentage wasn't so bad. It wasn't fantastic, but it was 28 for 37, which is not awful.
It's not awful, but in an overtime game, that's usable.
Like, it's fine, for the game that happened. Also, just because the Titans were very offensively strong as well. Tannehill had himself a game, also threw 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. He was 30 for 41, so it was about the same for both of them. Derrick Henry had 2 touchdowns because, he's insane. He had that ridiculously long rush.
Yeah, he
and
had
then
200
Brown caught 2 touchdowns. So,
and the touchdown that sent it to overtime. But could we just mention that Derrick Henry had 212 yards? You don't see that.
no.
The last person.
That's a passing stat right there.
Yeah, it is a passing stat. It's crazy. We haven't seen this kind of dominance from a running back since Adrian Peterson, which is beyond crazy.
It's so funny because they're kind of, in my head, I don't see them as the same kind of runner.
So, I don't either. Derrick Henry is much bigger and more of a power back. I think he's just able to, really.
He has the agility. We've seen it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
His trucks. I could spend so many hours. We talked about this last week too. His trucks.
Through Josh Norman.
Yeah, watching him throw people to the ground is my favorite thing ever. But let's into the predictions. We usually don't double up on a team, but this one was too good to not double up on. Steelers Titans. So, do you think the Steelers the Titans can continue their dominance against the Steelers? the Steelers do have the top-ranked defense in the league. And in addition, what makes this game really exciting is these are the last two undefeated teams left in the AFC.
hmm I think it's super exciting because, you have two really very. It's the same thing with the Browns. It was the best rushing offense against the best rushing defense. The Titans have the best running back in the league. That's the big difference. So, I think compared to the one against the Browns, where their running attack was very off, I think it's not going to be off just because they have Derrick Henry, and it's going to be a super close game. It's going to be a very close game. I can tell you that.
It will be a close game. I think it comes down to the quarterback performance. And I
hmm
don't particularly like Tannehill or Roethlisberger, but I think it depends who has the better game there, who's able to find their receivers. It helps a lot for the Titans that A.J. Brown is back. But the Steelers have been playing down to some teams, but they also will play up to some teams, and they've been a very high-level team. So I think that's interesting. But as you said, what I'm most excited to see is Derrick Henry versus that run defense.
Oh
Just
yeah,
because of
yeah.
the fact that
Me too.
Derrick Henry loves to run through players, and I don't know if he's going to get to do that with this Steelers team because there's not going to be holes for him to run through in that line.
It's going to be a great game. It's just so exciting to see such a good defense go against such a good offense.
Derrick Henry's going to be forced outside, and it just depends what he can do with it outside. So
hmm
we'll see. I'm very, very excited for this one. Hoping these are two teams who have had games canceled by Corona. So I'm hoping that they can both test, negative and everything. The Titans are getting Corey Davis back, which they've already had A.J. Brown back, so it's less of a big deal. But I think that could also be an addition for them in the offensive game. So, we'll see. That'll be a good one. And another really good game that's coming up, we've been talking about the Buccaneers a lot, but Buccaneers-Raiders, because the Buccaneers also have a great defense. They have the third-ranked defense in the league. And this is going to be a pretty fun Sunday night game.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a great battle between two really good defenses. The Raiders have like Max Crosby, and they have a bunch of really good guys in their front. They also have a pretty good secondary, but I think this year the thing that separates them from all is, you're gonna hate me for saying it, but Derek Carr, he's playing so well. Derek Carr is having a career year. I really hope he stays this way because then he's definitely gonna be a Pro
A
Bowler.
career year for Derek Carr is nothing special. Have you seen
He's
his
one
career
pick on the
stats?
whole entire season. He has one pick on the whole entire season.
Have you seen his career stats?
Yeah, they're pretty good. He's a four-time Pro Bowler, actually. He's a good player. I
He's
don't
up there with
understand why you don't like
Odell
him so much.
from Mr. Overrated. At least people have started to realize that Carr sucks. People still don't know Odell sucks, but two of them are definitely up there together. And Odell's better than Carr, if anything. So
I'm not so sure about that. He's really been utilizing his targets like
Josh
Darren
Jacobs,
Waller,
Josh Jacobs
Josh Jacobs.
is the reason the Raiders are alive.
What about Darren Waller? He's such a good
Darren
tight
Waller
end.
too. No, Darren Waller too. But Josh Jacobs forces them to come up and block the run. And Josh Jacobs is the reason what's elevated this Raiders team. Derek Carr, it's even a stretch to say he's average, but I'll say he's average for you because I'm so kind in that. But with an average to mostly bad QB, your rush game was what elevates you. And Josh Jacobs has been doing a fantastic job as a young player in this league, bringing that Raiders offense to such a high level.
Yeah, he's a really good player. I'm very surprised that he's really kept the same thing going from last season. Well, I think he came in second in offensive rookie last year. So, it's really good to see him really playing well.
Yeah. And then just a fun stat about this game before we move on. It's Gruden's first game versus Tampa Bay since he led them to a Super Bowl win. So a little bit, I don't know, you think bad blood, rivalry, excitement?
No. He doesn't want to have any bad blood with the team that he won a Super Bowl with, which I actually didn't really know that he won a Super Bowl.
He's going to want to show them up is what he's going to want to do.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's going to want to impress in his return.
Yeah. All right, let's go to fantasy. So we talked about him before, but my fantasy pickup of the week is Tua. It's not even close. Tua Tagovailoa. I love him so much. I'm addicted. And the fact that Fitzpatrick, I know he has his magic and everything, but he was able to get things done down in Miami. And if he was able to, I think Tua is going to. And Tua is an even bigger threat because of his legs, as we talked about before. He's healthy. He's ready to go. If he stays healthy and plays to the level that we know he all can and plays under the composure that he has in a game, that's what makes him so special. I think he's going to be more than fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, he's just going to be a special player. Like, I mean, they have a bye this week, so I wouldn't. You should still pick him up right now because
Well, right now's a good
he's
time
gonna
to
go
pick
in a
him up.
second. He's gonna go in 2 seconds. He's gonna get picked up in 2 seconds. So
Right? If you have that
now
extra
is
spot on your waiver wire, it's not like you're going to pick him up this week and start him anyway. Usually, when you pick a player up off the waiver wire who's at least coming in for a new week, you let him sit for a week, see what they do, and then play in the next week. So he's a good guy to stash on your bench, especially if you have extra spots because of COVID and everything. And if you have a player who just went to IR or who's hurt because there's been 1,000 injuries, Tua is a very, very good player to pick up and have there as a third quarterback option.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then another player to really look out for is Boston Scott because Miles Sanders is hurt for 1 to 2 weeks. So, and he's really had pretty good production, decent production in basically the whole entire season. And now that he's going to have that lead back role, the Eagles are pretty empty at running back. So, I think he's really going to have some good production this week.
I think the one worry with him that's the same with Tua and a lot of other players is that he's not on a team that's great. And so, yeah, sure, his team can put up some points because they have the potential to do it, but they can also have a week where they barely score a touchdown. And I think that's the one issue because in that situation, even last year, Boston Scott was the guy that the Eagles turned to when they were in the red zone. He's the one that gets the goal line carries and everything. But first of all, is he elusive enough to be an every down back is your first question because he's never had that role. So can he step into that and just run into that role and not just get like the 3-yard line touches? And in addition, can the Eagles offense produce enough for him to get points and be important enough? I like Boston Scott. I always have. My worry is more with the Eagles and less with him as a player.
Yeah, I think it's just they're lacking their bad offensive line. They're really downgrading offensive line. They're getting really old on that offensive line. Like you see, Jason Kelsey, and a bunch of those other players are just getting old. So I think it depends this week though because they're playing the Giants. The Giants have a really bad defensive line. Like what's really been keeping them in is James Bradbury playing really well, and their secondary as a whole playing really well. So I think it just really, yeah, he's been locking down. For real. The Giants cornerback locking down.
It's so weird. Eli Apple
Yeah,
2.0.
yeah.
Imagine
Yeah, I
Eli
hope
Apple
not.
sucking. Couldn't.
Yeah, I hope not. But, Boston Scott will
Especially
be
for
a
this
pretty
week.
good.
He has such a
Yeah,
favorable matchup. And
yeah.
so even if you think he couldn't be used in that format, I think against the Giants, anyone can be used in any format. So even with their win last week, they won against, the Washington football team, if that tells you anything. So I definitely think Boston Scott is going to be okay this week. He'll be a good pickup. I don't know going into the future, especially with Miles Sanders and everything. But for this week alone, I think he could be a good guy to just put in there at flex or something if you need.
Yeah, yeah. And I predict him to really have the same productivity as Devontae Freeman in general. He's the guy that really ranges about like 60 to 7 yards.
Yeah.
And in fantasy, if
He
Boston
relies on
Scott
the
were to score a
Yeah.
he just relies on that one touchdown, then he'll get up to 15, 16 points, and that'll be your running back for the week.
That's the problem with some of these players, like, as you said, Devonta Freeman, Boston Scott, is that they don't rush for a massive yard. And Derrick Henry used to be like that too. Now he gets more of that rushing because he gets every yard rushing. He gets every down rushing. But they rely on that touchdown. So I think that's what you're going to have to look for. But because they're playing the Giants, they're going to get those abilities. They're going to get those goal line touches. And so that's why I think Boston Scott, if anything, will be perfectly fine this week.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, let's move into red zone. So I know you've been crushing me, but I did a little bit better this week. I'm just saying I went 3 for 3. So, you can take that.
But, way to come back from my 3 to 3 week. Yeah.
You have not had a 3 out of 3 week yet. Oh, you had one.
I have 3 out of 3 week.
Okay, fine. That's fine. All right. So the first question from last week was, does a New York team get a win this week? And as we know, Washington played the Giants and the Jets played Miami. And we both said yes, the Giants won. So we both get the point for that. And then the next one we said was, who has more passing touchdowns, the Packers or the Buccaneers? I told you that the Buccaneers were going to have more. I didn't expect it to be as a landslide as it was, but the Buccaneers did have more. So I told you the Packers weren't going to have them. But you picked Packers, I picked Buccaneers. So I got that point. And then the last one was, does Andy Dalton lose the ball 2 or more times? And I said yes, and you said no. And he did lose it 2 times. So champion of the week, I just have to say. But Moving into this week, questions are a little bit different, more over-under questions. So the first one, we talked about LeVeon today, so only natural that we included him here. Does LeVeon have over or under 75 yards in his first game as a Chief?
I think under because they want to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire really keep his steady pace of rushing yards, and I think he's still going to need some time to break into a completely new system, which is like very much pass first. So I think that he won't really produce as much as usual.
I completely agree with that one. As much as I love to disagree with you, I don't think I can on this one. I think it has to be under, especially as you mentioned his first week with them. I just don't see it going any differently than that. I also think Clyde Edwards-Helaire has had such great production that there's no reason to limit him. So I think if anything, he's going to be the running back one, especially for this week. And LeVeon, if he does adjust into a bigger role, they're going to slowly adjust him into it. So I don't think you see him I don't even know if he gets 50 yards this week. Maybe he gets a couple carries and that's it. See how he does out there. So we'll see. Also, he's more of a rusher in my mind, less of a pass catcher, which I know he can. But they're also, as you mentioned, very pass heavy. So,
yeah.
Next one, we mentioned the Steelers and the Titans. So do the Steelers hold Derrick Henry to over under 100 yards? Best rusher in the league, and then best rushing defense in the league.
Ooh, that's a tough one. You know what? I always go first. How about you go first this time?
Okay, fine.
I'm having trouble deciding.
That means Alex doesn't have a decision. I'm gonna say that he goes over just because of the fact that Derrick Henry. Actually, no. I'm gonna go under. I'm changing that. I'm going under. So
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under because I had a little bit of a moment. But thinking about it, as I mentioned before, Derrick Henry has been that rusher in the past. Now he's putting up a lot of yards, but he's been that guy who he did rely on the touchdown to get the score, and that was very important for him. And I think he's very good at that role as well, where he'll get into the end zone if he's there, but sometimes he doesn't break out for yardage, and that's fine because he still puts up points because he gets in the end zone so often. So I'm going to say under, but he still has a big game because he scores when he needs to.
All right. Well, then I'm going to say over because, I'm going to hate on the Steelers a little bit. The Steelers have beat every team that they've beat, has only one win except for the Browns, who should be a one-win team. So, because the Browns suck. But I'm going to say that their defense really encounters their first offensive threat because they haven't all year. When they played the Browns, Nick Chubb was hurt. If Nick Chubb wasn't hurt, he would have lit up their defense. And I think this year
6 times.
Well, yeah, but you never know. But still, I think that he's gonna have a big game because the Steelers are finally gonna meet somebody that they can't put down because they haven't faced a single big running back yet.
I do think that's going to be interesting. I don't think the Steelers are going to get the win here just because they've played down to so many teams. I don't know if they can switch it around and play up to a team now. But I think the running back situation is going to be an interesting one. I mean, we'll see how it works out. I would love to see Derrick Henry have the game of his life. I enjoy watching that kid play. So if he does it, props to him. But I think it's going to be more touchdowns than yards for him. And the last one of the day, two guys who are very similar in my head, actually, Burrow and Mayfield. Who gets more passing yards this week?
You know what? I'm gonna say Mayfield because he's not a rookie. He's not a rookie. I think the Browns have a pretty talented secondary, and have they played the Bengals yet?
I think they have. Did they play once?
They might have.
Talked about it.
Yeah, I think we might have, but I think that Baker Mayfield just has more comfort throwing to players where he really also found Austin Hooper a lot last week, which I'm very happy about because Austin Hooper finally becomes a reliable target. So I think that Baker Mayfield's going to have more passing yards.
See, if you had asked me first what I thought, I would have said Baker Mayfield. But now that you've said that, I'm going to change it to Joe Burrow. So,
okay.
And this is why. I think that especially a key part of this Browns offense is Kareem Hunt. We know that it's Kareem Hunt. And it's their trick plays, and it's Odell throwing the ball when he shouldn't be, Landry catching the ball wherever the place. And I think if the Browns win this game, it's because they pull some special tricks like that. And it's not like the Bengals are good. They're not. I think the Browns will win this game, but I think they're going to have some fun with it. So I don't know how much usage Mayfield himself is going to get. Maybe there'll be short dish downs to Kareem and things, but I think they're going to beat the Bengals just anyway, but especially by rushing. And then in addition, Joe Burrow and T. Higgins have really been great together. And I
And they
think that's
have.
also been really fun to watch. So a couple long passes by Burrow to Higgins, and I think that pretty much seals the deal for Burrow's passing yards. So, you know,
All right. All right. That's your opinion. I think that your opinion is wrong, but
we'll see who
we'll
who
see.
had
We'll
the
see.
last 3 in
We'll
3
see.
weeks. I think it was me the last 3 for 3 weeks. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was.
All right. That wraps up today's episode. We'll see you guys next Wednesday with another one. Have a good week.